Hi there, and welcome to the latest in the Behind the Email series of interviews, where we talk to brand experts and thought leaders all about the way they use email as part of their strategies. So, today I have the absolute pleasure in talking to Craig McVoy. He's an expert in brand experience. So, Craig, can you tell us a bit about your business and how you use email as part of that strategy?
Sure. So we help people to create experiences in their business that make them stand out from the competition and make them different from everyone else in the market. And using communication strategy and looking at how they target their customers and their customer strategy in general. Email is a key function of that. It's part of their communication, but it's just one of the channels that we use in doing that. There are some key factors to using the email when it comes to making sure they're communicating with their audiences in a consistent way. So one of the things that we would look at with our clients is about how they're using all of their channels, whether that be email or online or face-to-face, even direct mail is making a bit of a comeback. So making sure that when they touch their customers, that the brand is being displayed and also used in the right consistency across that. Everything from the identity to the tone of voice to the messages that you use, the keywords, and making sure that when a customer reads something, whether that be an email or a mailer, it looks and feels like it's come from them.
Okay, that's interesting. So what are some of the things you think are absolutely vital? Because brand covers a whole array of topics. So when you come to actually looking at that email, or whether, as you sort of say rightfully, direct mail is making a huge comeback, what are the key things that you should be having in there, would you say?
Well, consistency is the biggest word that I would use across all of the touch points. The biggest challenge that you've got is making sure that something feels like it's coming from you, so that the customer expects what they're going to get is going to hit their expectations. And what I mean by that is, if something jars with a customer and doesn't feel right for the brand, then they will go into a meltdown where they lose trust in that brand. So it's the equivalent of, say, Volvo bringing out a car and it having a 1-star crash rating. You would just automatically think, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Volvo stands for safety. It stands for security. Family is who it protects. And the same is true of other brands as well. So if you are quite a serious dispute lawyer, you wouldn't have a comedy approach to your marketing. It just wouldn't fit. So choosing something that is consistent, relative to your marketplace, fits your brand description in terms of the promise that you're making to the customer, and making sure that you have got that in every touch point, so that your email marketing is not any different from if you go online to the website, or it's not any different in terms of the tone of voice you would use if you rang and spoke to them. It should all resonate with the same approach, really.
I suppose that's absolutely vital. We say it's about having that joined up, isn't it? So as you say, when they go from the email and then they bounce through to the website, they're seeing the same message, and you're taking that person on a sales journey, really.
Absolutely, and in this day and age now, a seamless journey is the important part. So people move around from device to device now more than they ever have done. They don't just go online and then finish what they're doing there. They might start that on their smartphone. I think over 80% of journeys now start on the smartphone. That might then move across to their desktop PC if they're at work. From the desktop, they might go home and pick it up on their tablet. They might go back to they might ring, or they might even call in a store. So that whole connected journey is about how do you make sure it feels consistent across all of those seamless journeys, because people will drop in and out on different channels. And if your email is not consistent with that, then you're going to start to confuse that audience, really.
Okay. And I think this brings us really nicely onto something you sort of touched on at the start is your brand message. Well, you're not even meant your marketing message, and about how important it is to get that right. So if you're talking to your customers about the right subject, they'll then engage with brand experience more effectively. Would you say that's correct?
Well, certainly you need to be talking in a language that they understand. What I would say for somebody who, say for instance, if you're in an industry that's uses quite a lot of jargon, then to try and find a language that avoids that. We talk in terms of what's the solution it will give to me rather than the technical spec. It's one of the reasons why Apple is so successful, because they don't sit and talk about what the size of the RAM is or what the size of the chips are that are inside their products. Well, here's what it does for you, and here's why it makes your life easier. So using that message in a consistent way that talks in the language that your ideal customer uses is paramount. Irrespective of whether you sell socks or software, it doesn't really make any difference. It's about what is that going to do for me, how do you help, and how do you consistently tell me about these things in a language that I understand.
And I think that's quite interesting, the Apple analogy you use, because I remember I went to a talk not long ago where Apple was looking at the customer journey, and they were talking about how one of the things they identified as an issue was the fact that Apple, when people got these amazing products, they didn't have any charge in them, so they couldn't use it. People then had to wait an hour or 2 hours before they could touch it, and it ruined the experience. Yeah. So one of the things they did, they changed it to have it so that all products would now come fully charged, so you can just take out the box and experience that. Do you think that relates to, do you think other businesses should be looking at that sort of journey that customers are making as well?
Absolutely. It's every single touch point in your brand is forming an impression of you, whether that's a positive one or a negative one. You very rarely have a non-plus opinion about something that's happening. It very much depends upon what you sell as well. So certain products are a painful process to go through, whatever it is you sell. I don't yet know anybody who said, I can't wait until my car insurance renewal comes up. I'm really looking forward to going through that purchase. I want it to be as easy as possible, seamless, trusted. So does it have a high de facto rating? Is it a good product? Can I trust the brand? And I just want to get that out of the way so I can get on with enjoying myself with the things that I do enjoy doing. And those brands, I don't actually want that to end. I want it to be magical. I want it to carry on. It's a bit like if you go to Disney, you never want that experience to end. It's magical. You don't go through a magical experience when you go through your car renewal. That's not the purpose of it. So I think brands who ignore those kind of things are missing a trick, because what you remember is that experience. Steve Jobs did a fantastic job, to pardon the pun, on making sure that every touch point felt special. You see that, people unboxing their products, and anyone who's unboxed an Apple product knows that even that feels quite an experience in its own right. So then to be able to turn it on and use it straight away is just adding to that excitement. You just bought this product and you're excited to get it. You want to use it. You don't want to wait till it's charged up. And that travels across industries, across many, many different industries. I remember a case study that's in my book actually around Virgin and their first class travel and their air travel. And they were trying to piece together that customer journey to make sure it was better than any other journey in the market. And what they found when they worked through those stages is that actually that time in the fuselage is pretty much the same across most planes, across most journeys. The bit that people get stressed about is from when you leave home in the morning with all your luggage through to when you get to the other side of your journey and you collect all of that and you're in your room and you can then start to enjoy your holiday or your trip. So they redesigned that journey so that, if you now fly with their business class, you get picked up by a chauffeur. It's the last time you see your luggage until you get to the other end. You don't go through check-in. You've got these wonderful business lounges with massages and all sorts of other things. The actual travel bit is largely, it's pretty good. It's of a good standard, but actually it's everything else that goes around it that makes that experience form the brand. And why do people think Virgin is a brand that is a great brand? Because of all of that experience.
I think you really raise a really valid point there. Because going back to the insurance example, you're right. Purchasing a piece of insurance really isn't sexy. It isn't fun. That's something we look forward to doing. But it's something we all have to do. But why do we go back to the same company? And for me personally, I think that's where you get to use tools such as email really nicely. So I know one of the insurance companies I've used in the past, they kept me constantly re-engaged, talking about, giving me advice around business tools that are available to me, other services that they had within the business. They kept themselves front of mind the whole time. So have you got any examples of the way businesses where you think they can enhance that experience, I suppose?
Yeah, sure, and you're right. Email is a way of keeping in touch, especially on a product like insurance where it's annual. If the only time you talk to somebody is when you need to take money off them, then the relationship you're building up is a pretty one-sided relationship. It's transactional. There's no relationship there. In fact, it is completely transactional. There's no emotion there for sure. If during the year you are given snippets of extra things that are not just an ask for the business, but actually that add in value, it could be that, for instance, it's about to enter into the summer holidays, so here are things that you should check on your car before you go on your summer trips, or it's coming up to Christmas, have you thought about adding up in your insurance in these areas, or just things that really add value to you. How can you make your brand sticky by delivering more than what the core product is? And communicating by email is one of those. Across all, I'd use that as a mixture of your comms strategy, but making it easy for people to engage with you, and how you use technology to build that together as well. So if I'm an insurance company and I'm understanding what your credit card is, why can't I add on purchases that you've made to your insurance this month without you even having to worry about it? What happens if you go to John Lewis and you buy a TV, and the minute you put it outside the store, it's already on your insurance? Those are the kind of things about how do I make it more tangible for you to see the value without it necessarily being that I have to take some money from you in order for that transaction.
And I suppose as well, as you're saying, one of the good things is about identifying add-ons, upsells that can come from it. So if someone can be tagged as being a commercial insurance customer, but then as they go through the journey, they're using the analytics, they can identify the fact they suddenly moved into potentially interested in being a landlord. You could then do that upsell via that. How would you take that journey from getting someone from product A to product B?
Well, A, it needs to be relevant. So what really jars me is when you see companies who just spam, because what they're doing is they're just saying, this is all the stuff we could sell you, so let me bombard you with things. What customers are really looking for is somebody who's got their best interests at heart. So how can you make it relevant for me to move through that journey? And even if it involves upsells or moving into different products, why does that become relevant for me? And why are you trying to maneuver me into that journey because it's right for me, not because it's right for you as the company? So the companies that do it best are the ones that will make it your benefit by moving you from this product to that product, or your benefit for you to go through these add-ons because you're saving money, or you are saving time, or it's better for you, you're getting better functionality. So it becomes more about who is the journey centred on. Is it centred on the seller, or is it centred on the customer? And if you can do it that way, then you're in a much better position.
Yeah, I suppose from the customer, in this situation, the insurance company's position, they've got the analytics haven't they to turn upon, so they can actually see what people are engaging, where they're looking on the website, and use that to drive that intelligence. Yeah,
I mean, data is now so valuable, and if you're able to understand the touch points that people are making when they're coming to your website or when they're touching your email or whatever interaction they're having. Data is king on there. But of course, data on its own is just numbers and figures. Data needs to be turned into insights to use to get the value. So anything that helps move that data away from just being data and in terms of understanding why that's important and converting that into value for you to use then as a business with your clients. It also helps to personalise that journey more. So the more personalised you make it, the more it feels like it's just for me. It's not something you've just spammed out in a farmer's gun approach. It's for me, and you've made it feel like it's for me. Therefore, I think it's for me. I'm going to buy it. So it's not using psychology in terms of doing things for a bad reason. It's making sure that I can see the value so that I decide to purchase things by using that data in an intelligent way.
I suppose that brings us quite nicely to, we brought this up in one of the previous interviews with Yanis Maus, and in that we were talking about data's absolutely fantastic, but you can't just rely upon data on its own. Gut instinct is a part of it. Do you find that much in what you're doing?
Gut instinct, I would say, is one thing, but more feel.
Feel, yeah.
And you're also seeing a lot more now in terms of looking at the context of how people say things and the way in which they say it. So not only is it just about what's transcribed or voice to text, etc., but looking at through the engine that you're building those data and analytics through to understand what's the context that somebody used there, how did they say that, what did they mean, what's the sentiment, and we would talk about putting it through sentiment engines to understand whether they meant it in a positive or a negative way, and using those insights to be able to shape it in the right way. It's where certainly voice recognition has come on a long way in the years that have been developed really in that phase.
I suppose that then takes us to the whole realm of artificial intelligence and being able to mine even bigger chunks of data, but more accurately.
Yeah, I mean, AI is going to change the way we do things from a consumer perspective and also from a business perspective. So, VR, AR, AI, all of those things will make our consumer purchase journey very different. There's a huge opportunity for personalisation in there. There's a piece about using data for good. So how are you able to simulate how this will change my life? Because if you think about it, we don't even need to be there anymore. We can just simulate that through AI or through virtual reality. I can test drive a car that doesn't physically exist just by being in a simulator of it and using a VR headset. You know, I can see the sofa in my lounge by using a piece of software that's on my phone now. So they all add to the experience, and that's going to change the way in which we interact with people. It's going to be much more fluid. It's going to be much more about using machine to machine, looking at IoT and all of the rest of the technological advancements, not easy to say, to make the experience better and to make sure that those communications are solid. Because although machines will come in and play a big role in that, when emotion is part of the equation, people will still want to be able to talk to people. They'll still want to be able to have those traditional contact methods as well as all this new tech.
I think that's nailed it for me. When it comes to your marketing message, we're going back a bit into the journey here, but it comes back to your marketing message. Emotion is at the crux of it. If you can understand why somebody wants to do something, what drives them to make the actual decision on that emotional level, that's when you know you've hit the right level of communication. Yeah, absolutely.
In order to stimulate somebody to take action, you must cause them to have an emotional impact. We buy emotionally and justify rationally. That's the way in which we transact. So how can you make me feel like this is the right thing to do and then I can rationalise that through the data.
Brilliant. Craig, thank you very much. I think that finishes it absolutely brilliantly. It's about, for us, it's about when you're doing your email marketing, it's about tying it all in and understanding exactly what it is that customers want to hear, so they actually engage properly with you and they have meaning behind it. Craig, thank you very much.
Thank you.